I would like to start this meeting by recognizing that the area we call the Fraser Valley Regional Hospital District, where we are gathered today, is the homeland of 30 different First Nation communities. Actions and decisions made by government in the past have left many Indigenous communities untrusting of the Canadian healthcare system. It is our collective responsibility to keep this at the forefront of our minds as we make decisions, since the decisions we make have a direct impact on the physical and mental well-being of all community members, Indigenous and non-Indigenous. So with that in mind, I would like to call to order the March 21st, 2024 meeting of the Hospital District Board to order. Thank you.
Thank you. So looking for approval of the agenda and late items.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Director Facio, Director Clute, those in favor, contrary, carried.
Item 4.1 is the draft Fraser Valley Regional Hospital District Board meeting minutes of February 29th, 2024.
Director Horn and Director Siemens, any errors or omissions? Seeing none, those in favor, contrary, carried.
5.1 is the 2024 Hospital District Annual Budget.
Thank you. There's a motion there for your consideration. Director Horn, Director Lum, any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor, contrary, carried. Next item.
Then there's motion number 2, Madam Chair.
The second motion there is for your consideration. Is there a mover? Director Makahonic and Director Ross. Any questions? Those in favor, contrary, carried.
And motion number 3.
Moved by Director Lum, second Director Johnson. Those in favor, contrary, carried.
Thank you. So moving to item 5.2, we have the 2024 Capital Expenditure Bylaw. Again, there are 3 motions in the agenda.
Move motion 1, Madam Chair.
Director Facio, second Director Clute. Any discussion? Those in favor, contrary, carried. Motion number 2. Director Adamo, second Director Popov. Those in favor, contrary, carried. Motion number 3. Director Johnson, Director Makahonic. Those in favor, contrary, carried.
Thank you. So moving to item 6, which is reports from board directors.
Any reports? Thank you. Next item.
Now moving down to public question period for items relevant to the agenda, and we'll just turn things over to our corporate officer, Jamie Van Ness.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have one member of the public in our audience this evening. This would be your opportunity to ask a question relevant to the hospital district agenda. And I do note we do have one member of the public online with us today. And again, this is your opportunity to ask a question relevant to the agenda. If you just want to hit the raise hand function. And it would appear we have no questions from our online viewers. And no questions from our in-person audience.
Thank you, Ms. Vaness. Next item.
Next is a resolution to close the meeting.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Director Facio, Director Horn. Those in favor, contrary, carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start by recognizing that the FVRD is home of 30 First Nation communities where we live, work, and learn. The important decisions that we make here tonight at the FVRD can affect First Nation communities, Indigenous peoples, and organizations in many different ways today and into the future. So as part of our collective responsibility, I commit that we continue to examine the work that we do to ensure that our projects, plans, initiatives, and discussions are guided by the principles of inclusion, collaboration, and reconciliation. With that, I'd like to call to order our March 21st, FDRD Board of Directors meeting. First item is Kinnaman.
Looking for approval of the agenda, addenda, and late items, and I would just note that staff are requesting to remove item 9.1 this evening, and we will bring it back next month.
Thank you. With that, small amendments moved by Director Ross and seconded by Director Reed. Discussion, being none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
4.1, we have the emergency management plan, and we do have a staff presentation this evening from Tarina College.
Thank you. Miss College. Welcome.
Evening. Let me move that microphone slightly away from my mouth since I talk. I'm really glad to be able to be here tonight to present our new emergency management plan and our hazard report. You'll notice that the hazard report is a standalone document and is later on the item agenda for you. An emergency management plan is informed by our hazards, and there are different approaches that can be taken. We've taken an approach to hazard reporting that assembles the 1,000 geotechnical reports that are already on file within the Fraser Valley Regional District electoral areas as part of our planning and development processes. You'll often hear about an HRVA, hazard risk vulnerability assessment. It seems to be a standard in BC, and it's the methodology that's taught. We took a different approach because HRVAs are heavily about feelings and public engagement, and geotechnical hazards are very much based on science and information. The hazard report and the EM report are both designed, or EM plan are both designed to be very easily consumable by a public audience, and we've written them to be that way. We want to make sure that our emergency management plan is reflective of those hazards. So we have a new emergency management plan on the agenda tonight. An emergency management plan is required under legislation, and we've taken an approach to this emergency management plan that is a little bit different. It's innovative, it's appealing, and it's informed. While we weren't at the forefront of the legislative know-how, we were participants in the Flood Wildfire Advisory Committee with the Union of BC Municipalities. And so we had a little bit of an insight to the policy general directions, and we worked with the knowledge that we had to build an EM plan that would help us at least have a starting foundation under the new legislation. It is respectful of Indigenous governing bodies and First Nations. It reflects business continuity. It's integrative, it's lean and focused, and it does undertake a 4-phased approach to emergency management. You've heard a lot about the Emergency Disaster Management Act, I'm sure in each of your own municipalities as this act has rolled out and gone forward. We started looking at our contexts. Our contexts matter, and so we essentially did an environmental and an institutional scan on our context. What does emergency management mean?
Miss College, sorry to interrupt you. I'll just get you to move a little bit closer. I just get a couple of directors who just can't quite hear.
Thank you.
perfectly. I want to make sure they,
Quiet.
yeah, I want to make sure they get all of it.
Perfect. Thank you for that feedback. We wanted to make sure that our emergency management plan is built on those contexts and that it does help educate our public about emergency management as well as set and manage expectations. We wanted it to be an evergreen emergency management plan. That means that if something changes today, we can reasonably adjust that very small line item in the plan. We've developed it based on census data rather than what we choose selectively within our own team, and it helps us set those reasonable tools that we can navigate with. Everyone in emergency management has a role. And we often forget about the public preparedness components and our own personal responsibilities. If I asked you all here today, who's got an emergency kit in their trunk in their house, how long is it good for? We would have a myriad of different answers. We want our public to start preparing for 10 to 14 days because in our electoral areas, we understand many of our communities have single access, single egress. We have a very nominal percentage of land base that's actually covered by a fire department, first responder service, and we have smatterings of RCMP, maybe some search and rescue that can deploy to our areas. We needed to be able to look at those contexts and think about what they mean to our constituents when emergencies happen and actually create an empowerment model that says you can help yourself and you can also help your neighbors. So looking at the Emergency Disaster Management Act, we know that we all have personal responsibilities. We know that infrastructure operators, they also have responsibilities, as do farmers, other levels of government, and so do all businesses. And so too do response agencies. We built this plan with profiles and tools. And so every one of the 24 designated places that Census Canada has identified have enough population and demography to pull a census profile is what we've mapped and what we've created community profiles on. So within our electoral areas, there are 24 community profiles that have enough population demography to create these. Within those profiles, we get a really high level overview of what might be at risk in a community, but what might also be available in that community when something goes sideways or when we need to activate for emergency response. Using the same circle graph that you see on each community profile, at the back of the emergency management plan, we've got a tool. This tool is sort of like emergency management planning for an emergency situation, but it takes all the EM language out of it, and it's a very practical tool that if you were isolated in your community, you didn't have communication and you had no training, you could take that tool, you could look at the circle graph for your community, and you could quickly reason, this is where we were, this is where we are now, and this is where we need to get back to be, and who does what and what agencies are responsible for that. You'll notice that this doesn't feel like a response-centric emergency plan as the Act has changed. We have also had to adjust to having an emergency management plan that is an emergency management, not emergency response, but we do still follow the BC emergency management system. How do we do that in a way that reflects constantly changing or evolving legislation, the absence of regulations, and a system that is also set to be slated or updated in 2025-26? It's by reflecting that we use the province's system for emergency response. So we've adopted their same levels of activation. Today, we would be considered as activated at a routine level, and we may level up to a catastrophic level. You'll see in the organization structure there, that's a very high level overview. What's really important is recognizing that an emergency operations center, specifically to our electoral area emergency management service, also needs to have its conduit to the CAO and the board. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to pull together the full board every time we have a briefing, but it means that we need to reflect the board is integrally invested in our emergency response and is part of our plan. You'll also note there under liaison, it's a little blurry on the screen, but that says Deputy Liaison Officer, Indigenous Relations. And so while we haven't yet understood all of the clarity regarding Indigenous engagement yet, we have at least created a space where if we have an emergency that is co-affecting First Nations, we could either invite someone from their community to join our EOC, we could invite an allied body to help represent their interests in our EOC, or we might even reach out to our own Indigenous relations staff to fill that role and undertake greater outreach to make sure that neighboring jurisdictions and First Nations that we co-share our land space with are as at the forefront of the information as we are. I'm sure that any one of you who's listened to Emergency and Disaster Management Act information has pondered, what does mitigation mean in emergency management? Your emergency managers aren't out building dikes. We're not fixing floodplains. What does that mean? And so EDMA makes the space for us to undertake a 4-phased approach, and now it regulates this 4-phased approach. I want to share with you, and we've done it in this plan, that a 4-phased approach is doing all of our day-to-day business in the space of our emergency management plan. We link what we do every day in every department without replicating it or duplicating it. So what you're seeing here is a quick summary of how we have different business services that fit each of those 4 phases: mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. On the bottom right, you've got a little bit of an overview of mitigative efforts that FVRD does all day, every day in our typical business services. And then above that, you've got what you can't see the banner of, which is a response or a document library. This is how we start linking the tools that are created in each of our business services to the purposes of emergency management. And that's novel so far in BC, because most of our plans are response-centric, and they really tell our organization, you will do the thing, this is how we will manage the problem. What this does is say, this is how we will manage a program. First Nations engagement may occur in many different ways, and we are still waiting to learn what that means in relation to Crown land and traditional areas, and I'm sure that that will be different from community to community. So with that in mind, we have a solid foundation in this emergency management plan. It's not 100% perfect. It does have some minor amendments that we already know have changed over in the electoral areas and some community profiles. There's a recent cafe that closed that's named on one. We aim to evergreen this plan and continue to update those little things. And as the legislation, as the regulations unfold, we know we'll have to adjust bits and pieces to reflect the regulatory requirements. So the what next? Seeking board endorsement from you today on this plan. And once we have that, reflecting again further into the regulations, we'll push forward with community preparedness as well as public communications. We'll scan for future funding, and then we'll work towards the things that are already in our annual work plan, such as training and exercise planning, Indigenous engagements, preparedness, resiliency, and community emergency programs. That'll be our neighborhood community resiliency program that is already part of our emergency management program policy that was board approved as well. And consider that bottom bullet there that's internal and external appendices. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. College. Right on the money for your time on presentation. But look, maybe I get to see a lot of this and talk about a lot of this stuff a lot of the time. And I want to thank you for your work and the team's work on this. This is phenomenal work. It's an incredible amount of work went into this during a pretty challenging time when not only were we going through all of our own emergency activations, but a bit of a shifting landscape under our feet in terms of what the new legislation was going to bring. I don't want you to sell yourself short and the team short on this. You were a key member of the UCM's committee, and I know they and the province, to a certain extent, look to a lot of your expertise on this. So yeah, I think it's worth acknowledging that and thanking you for the incredible amount of time and effort that's gone into this. It's great work. Yeah. Comments or questions? Director Reed.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just want to acknowledge, all the hard work that Ms. College has put into this and the team that you're working with. I know that I've had the opportunity to work with you in numerous locations outside of the board table, and it's always been just so professionally done and thorough and smart. So just those are kind of thoughts that come to my mind when I was reading through this document, and really excited to see how well prepared and opportunities to mitigate future risks. So thank you for the hard work.
Director Horn.
Thank you. If only you had brought a little bit of passion and interest to this path. I'm just so, I think we're all privileged, but I know how passionate you are about this stuff, Tarina, and I'm just want to point out that you come from Mission, or came from Mission. Two questions arising out of something that was my experience during the Atmospheric River event. And we had people who are in Area F reaching out to the city of Mission regarding questions around evacuation and other services. So my question is, does this plan incorporate sort of in the same way as we have mutual aid around fire response and search and rescue, does it incorporate other places where we might share services like evacuation? That's my first of two.
That's a big question. As of our stance today, we have no mutual aid agreements in any formal written perspective for emergency management. With that being said, emergency management BC's policies allow us to call upon surge supports and to cooperate very effectively, which is slightly different than the fire world that doesn't have those same policies, which relies heavily on those mutual aid pieces. We also have the ability to declare a state of local emergency, and we look forward to building greater relationships and documented procedural aspects of those interrelationships as this legislation unfolds.
Well, I would encourage you to reach out certainly to our municipality, because it was very likely or possible during that event that Director Castle's area or Director Davidson's rating area would have been at least somewhat cut off from others. And I did have citizens asking me why we weren't rescuing them, and they saw our vehicles in the area. And so that's the reason why I asked that. But the other part of it is I see, and I completely agree with the portion of this that talks about public communications. And I'm very much in agreement with the idea that no longer are we talking about a kit that might last you 3 to 5 days. but 14 days. But also quite simply, it's very remarkably common for people not to know whether they live in an electoral area versus our municipality. It's exceedingly common that people don't know that. And so that very simple piece of information, know where you live, can we please incorporate it into our communications? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Horn. Other questions or comments? Nope, I don't see any. So,
Davidson?
Chair Lum, I see Director
oh,
Davidson
sorry,
has his
Director
hand raised.
Davidson.
Apologies.
Yep, go ahead, Director
So,
Davidson.
thank you, Chair. Just through to Director Horn, the not sure where residents live in Mission or electoral area or not is a pretty common theme. So maybe it's time to consider just some additional roadside signage on some of the back roads. Just make it more clear to people. But anyway, just a thought. But if we can make that problem go away, we'd solve a lot of other problems that flow from that. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Pranger.
Just want to say thank you for all the work that went into the plan. And I'm feeling rather grateful that we have a good plan and that I live in a regional district where the communities help each other out when there is an actual emergency, and reaching out to one another, and being real neighbors makes a lot of difference in an emergency as well. And I want to applaud the member municipalities and the regional district for their help to one another.
Thank you, Director Pranger. Any other comments? Can I get a motion on the table? Do I have a mover and a secondary?
So moved, Chair Lum.
Moved by Director Castle, seconded by Director Reed. Any other comments on the presentation? No. I'll just say again, just a testament to, you know, getting started on this work prior to the legislation actually being released. Just the fact that how well it's aligned with the fact that, you know, we didn't know exactly where it was going to go, I think is another testament to how kind of connected you are to the world of emergency management. So well done, and well done to all the staff, because this is a whole, you know, all of department approach as well. So there's a lot of people that contribute, and I know there's a lot of people to thank for their contributions to this as well. So that'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That item carries. Thank you. Next item.
5.1 is the draft Fraser Valley Regional District Board meeting minutes of February 29th, 2024.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Clute, seconded by Director Siemens. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor. Opposed, if any? Item carries. Next item.
Items 6.1 through 6.3 are committee minutes for information and matters arising.
Questions on any of the information items? See any? Next item.
7.1 is a 2023 grant and aid request for an Indigenous culture camp in electoral area C.
Thank you. That is moved by Director Wardenberg, seconded by Director Johnson. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
8.1 is the 2023 financial plan amendments. It's a motion for your consideration.
Okay, first reading.
Move, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Director Facio, seconded by Director Pranger. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Second and third reading is moved by Director Johnson, seconded by Director Horn. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. And adoption is moved by Director Ross, seconded by Director McHonick. All in favor, opposed if any, the item carries. Next item.
8.2 is the Fraser Valley Regional District's 2024 to 2028 financial plan bylaw number 1726.
Okay, first reading. It's moved by Director Ross, seconded by Director Clute. Discussion. Here, Director Siemens, go ahead.
Just wanted to thank staff. I know we had had a bit of an issue that came up at RACS and or at the last board meeting, and I just appreciated staff's willingness to work through some of the stickier points, and I noticed there was some changes made, so just appreciate that. Thank you.
And other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, Item carries. Second and third reading, moved by Director Lowen, seconded by Director Reed. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. And finally, adoption. Moved by Director Popov, seconded by Director Smith. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, the item carries. Thank you. Next item.
Thank you. 8.3 is the Fraser Valley Regional District Popcom Street Lighting Service Area Amendment Bylaw number 1714.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Dickey, seconded by Director Johnson. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
8.4 is the Fraser Valley Regional District Popcom West Storm Drainage Local Service Area Amendment Bylaw number 1715.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Dickey, seconded by Director Fraser. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. You're gonna have to help me out on this one. We're gonna do quite a few of them. Next item.
8.5 is the Fraser Valley Regional District Sub-Regional Transit Service Area Amendment Bylaw number 1729.
Okay.
Move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion number one, moved by Director Ross, seconded by Director Facio. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Motion number two, moved by Director McIlhonick, seconded by Director Clute. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. And motion number three is moved by Director Reed, seconded by Director Clute. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, the item carries. Next item.
8.6 is Fraser Valley Regional District North Bend Water System Local Service Area Amendment Bylaw number 1730.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Johnson, seconded by Director Smith. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
8.7 is Fraser Valley Regional District Area A Garbage Disposal Service Area Amendment Bylaw number 1731.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Johnson, seconded by Director Dalmo. All in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
8.8 is Fraser Valley Regional District Yale and District Community Use Facility Operation and Maintenance Service Area Amendment Bylaw number 1732.
Moved by Director Adamo, seconded by Director Castle. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
8.9 Fraser Valley Regional District Area B Community Park Service Area Amendment Bylaw number 1733.
Moved by Director Adamo, seconded by Director Johnson. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
8.10 is the Fraser Valley Regional District Electoral Areas E and H Community Park Service Area Amendment Bylaw number 1734.
Moved by Director Dixon, seconded by Director McIlhonick. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
8.11 is Fraser Valley Regional District North Bend Sewer System Local Service Area Amendment Bylaw number 1735.
And it's moved by Director Johnson, seconded by Director Barkman. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
8.12 is Fraser Valley Regional District South Poultice Lake Sewage Treatment Service Area Amendment Bylaw number 1736.
It's moved by Director Dixon, seconded by Director Johnson. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
8.13 is the Fraser Valley Regional District Town Site of Yale Water Supply and Distribution Local Service Area Amendment Bylaw number 1737.
It's moved by Director Adamo, seconded by Director Ross. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
8.14 is the Fraser Valley Regional District Dogwood Water System Local Service Area Parcel Tax Amendment Bylaw number 1738.
It's moved by Director Adamo, seconded by Director Johnson. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
8.15 is Fraser Valley Regional District Public Notice Bylaw number 1741.
Thank you.
Move
First reading.
option one,
Uh,
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. First reading is moved by Director Facio, seconded by Director Clute. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Second and third. Director Popov, second Director Ross. Discussion. None, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. And next item.
8.16 is Fraser Valley Regional District Water Supply Systems Regulations, Fees, and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 1742.
Okay, first reading moved by Director Lowen, seconded by Director Dickey. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Second and third, moved by Director McIlhonick, seconded by Director Clute. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries, and adoption is moved by Director Director Ross, seconded by Director Horn. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, the item carries. Next item.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
8.17, Fraser Valley Regional District North Bend Sewer System Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 1744.
All right, first readings moved by Director Johnson, seconded by Director Adamo. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Second and third, moved by Director Dickey, seconded by Director McAhonick. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. And adoption is moved by Director Pranger, seconded by Director Gill. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
10.1 is new floodwater mosquito control services contract. There is a motion for your consideration.
Okay, it's moved by Director, I think that was Director Clute, seconded by Director Dickey. Oh, yeah, that's correct, is it not? Did we miss 9-1?
911 was
Did-
struck from the agenda.
Oh, that's right, we moved it. Sorry. It's moved, sorry, by Director Clute, seconded by Director Dickey. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
10.2 is the air park hangar agreement.
Okay, it's moved by Director Smith, seconded by Director Adamo. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
10.3 is the Village of Harrison Hot Springs boat launch agreement.
Move, Mr. Chairman.
It's moved by Director Facio, seconded by Director Pranger. Discussion. Director Facio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you and to the staff. I just want to thank them for I think it's 2015, they took over the boat launch so anyway, it's been a well-run operation at the Harrison boat launch, good management, and it's a very difficult job handling, especially on through the summer months with the amount of boaters that go on the lake, but we really appreciate the work done by the staff here and the boat launch attendants on operating the boat launch. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Facio. Director Reed.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question, and sorry for not prefacing this earlier. So if this needs to go, it's totally okay. But just curious on the economic impact of this for the Fraser Valley Regional District and how many jobs it's actually creating for the community. And is there opportunity to make more money to go back to more parks by increasing fees, and wondering about the boat launch, like how many launches are we seeing? Has that increased? And so that's causing the extra expenses associated with the park.
Sure. I think we'll just turn things over to Stacy Barker to answer this question. Some of that might not be readily available this evening, but certainly I think in terms of monitoring the financial impact that was noted in the report, I know that staff are looking at that very closely with the village.
Ms. Barker.
Thank you. Yes, that's correct. We do plan to have continuing conversations with Harrison Hot Springs staff about fee implications and increases in the future. But in terms of economic impact, we certainly have one member. It's not a staff member, it is a contracted services, but they're certainly employed there. But I will argue too that certainly that traffic coming into that boat launch certainly benefits the local community as well. I can't put a number to that, but certainly it's a benefit. We also run the boat launch here at Island 22 and do the same there. Lots of tourist operations in there. It's coming as well. I don't have those figures on me, but certainly we could provide those in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. Other questions? Hearing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any, item carries. Next item.
10.4 is a lease extension for the Chilliwack River Valley Fire Hall.
Thank you. It's moved by Director McAhonick and seconded by Director Johnson. Discussion. Director McAhonick.
Yeah, I just want to say how pleased I am that this is happening and that the fire department is very pleased, and was really kind of a fun exercise to get done. And I really want to thank staff, especially Stacy Barker, for making sure that it happened. And yeah, 25 years and $1 a year, and room for 2 more bays for down the road for sustainability. And we do have the second highest call out. And so it's really nice to have a sustainability piece for the one road in, one road out. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Director McAhonick. Thank thank you for your work on this as well, for sure. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
11.1 is an information item. It's the Club Child After School Daycare Program, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Don't see any. Next item.
11.2 is the hazard report for electoral areas. Again, spoken to a little bit in the presentation this evening, but I'm happy to answer any questions on this portion.
Thank you. Questions, Director Clute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment, interesting read. Not sure if this is a rough draft that's been provided, but I did notice on under additional considerations on page 56, under 5.1, they mentioned Mount St. Helens was in the state of Oregon. Last time I checked, it was in the state of Washington.
It's moved. Yeah.
Really?
Thank you, Director Eagle Eye Clute. Next, any other questions? Thanks. No. Other questions or comments? But thank you for that. Nope. Next item.
11.3 is a frontage waiver for a 2-lot subdivision of 11871 McGimpsey Road in electoral area C.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Wardenberg, seconded by, this is for EAs, only Director Dickey. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, opposed of any, item carries. Next item.
11.4 is an agricultural land commission application for a non-farm use at 8670 Sylvester Road in electoral area G.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Castle and seconded by, this is the EAs again, Director Johnson. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
11.5 is building bylaw and BC building code contraventions at 11383 Farms Road in electoral area F.
Thank you. It's
Move
moved by
Davidson.
Director Davidson, seconded by Director Castle. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
11.6 is building bylaw and BC building code contraventions at 12790 Stave Lake Road in electoral area F.
Move Davidson.
It's moved by Director Davidson, seconded by Director Horn. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, opposed if any, item carries. Next item.
11.7 is support for Advantage Hope's municipal, regional, and district tax program renewal.
Thank you. It's moved by Director Smith. Are you, you want this one? Yeah, it's moved by Director Smith, seconded by Director Reed. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor. Oh, sorry, Director Adamo.
Sorry, through the chair and staff, just a quick question on this one. Was this going to also apply to short-term rentals in our area? Or was there any discussion of bringing that in? And how does that actually get taken care of through perhaps Airbnb or FBRO?
Ms. Kinnaman, I thought the MRDT applies to Airbnb, like they automatically have to bring it.
It absolutely does, but I'm just going to turn it over to Stacey Barker because I do know that with the new housing legislation, there were some impacts in this, and I do believe there was a backgrounder issued by the province of British Columbia that spoke to this, but I don't know if we have that here this evening. But
So what I can say is that it is our understanding that it applies. It has applied in the past, and we do think it will continue. Whoever is the online marketplace, they collect the taxation on our behalf, and then we are remitted that. Well, I should say, sorry, Advantage Hope it would be remitted that.
Now, depending on what happens, I think, what is it, May 1st? Is when the legislation comes in, or comes into effect. I don't know how that would be impacted in some communities that are, over 5,000? Yeah. Those impacts could be significant if there was lots of short-term rentals. But yeah, I'm not sure in specific to the electoral areas. I guess they would be under, those communities would be under most of them. Yeah. Director Horn.
Just following up on the question, I asked a question of the minister and surprised to find out that the province's registry, while it will leave a space for evidence of or indication that there's a local business license. Won't really cross-reference it in a way that actually mandates it. There will be no proof there. And so I wondered through the chair to staff whether or not we might expect that there's anything coming regarding how we might, as a region, hold people accountable for that, and whether or not we're considering the resource. I know in our municipality there's probably 1,100 units, and I doubt that 1% of them have a business license, and it's a consideration we're making in that area. So I don't know what staff have in mind at a local level, and that's the question.
Ms. Kinnaman, I know we've had some discussion on communities that allocated resources to enforcement on STRs and seem to be playing a little bit of whack-a-mole in terms of the amount of money they were putting into enforcement versus the outcome, whether or not they were able to enforce. I thought they were going to put it on. My understanding was they were putting it on the platforms to enforce, like for the listing to have to provide proof of business license, but I'm not 100% sure about that.
That is my understanding, but maybe we could just turn it over to Hasib Navi if he has any comments.
Through the chair to Director Horn. STRs Bill 35, it's something include in addition to the housing legislation. It's something staff is planning on bringing in front of the board in April and subsequent months. There'll be a little bit of discussion as to what we would be doing in terms of business licensing. Right now, in most of our electoral areas, we don't allow short-term rentals other than Cultus and Hemlock. Generally speaking, and there are areas where we have short-term rentals, but we don't have zoning there, so thereby they have short-term rentals. But it is a discussion that requires consideration of a region-wide what we're doing and with other municipalities in the region, as well as resource allocations. So we're going to start that conversation hopefully next month, and then with the board's direction in subsequent months as well.
Thank you. Just to quickly wrap up, Mr. Chair, I look forward to that conversation, and I appreciate we'll have a chance to do it. I do think it deserves a regional approach, because if we're taking an approach of allowing them in some areas and not in others, we are going to, essentially tip the balance in terms of where people may have accommodation. And I'm hearing in our community that people are saying two things. One is that if they can't have a short-term rental, it doesn't mean that they'll automatically provide a long-term rental. And the second is that they're concerned about the impact on accommodations because there just aren't enough hotel rooms out there. So I look forward to that conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Horn. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, the item carries. Next item.
Items 13.1 through 13.4 are items for information and correspondence.
Okay, any questions on any of those correspondence items? Don't see any. Next item.
Item 15 is reports by board directors.
Thank you. Directors, be your opportunity. Director Horn.
Well, I think we've all seen it by email and read it in the papers, but I think it is very deserving of a public accolade and thanks to my colleagues around the Hatzic Watershed Stewardship Team, Director Castle, Director Davidson, Chair Lum, as well as representation from Dudney Area Improvement District, as well as the Camel First Nation, and most importantly, the leadership of CAO Kinnaman and of Mr. McCamey from LFN. The work that table is doing is just getting started. $10 million is not, no pun intended, a bit of a drop in the bucket of what we might ultimately have to spend over a number of years or even generations. But it has been a very lengthy process of getting to a place where we're all pulling together. And I'm extremely proud to work with the group because it has been a stop-start over the years there. And I think we're setting a bit of a mold that we're hearing from the province is a good model for elsewhere. So I just want to thank our staff for working very diligently in a short timeline to get things together with the help of our consultants. and to come up with $10 million to get us started. So thank you very much.
Director Castle.
Thank you, Chair Lum. I'd like to echo the comments by Director Horn. I'm also happy to acknowledge the investments in flood mitigation and prevention in the Hatzic watershed, as well as along the foreshore of Nacomin Island by the province. I'd like to thank members of the Hatzic watershed stewardship team for their work, and especially with respect to the Nacomin Island project, which is not part of the Hatzic watershed stewardship team mandate. Our FBRD staff for their work and their advocacy that saw the granting of $10 million into Area G to move that work forward. So thank you to staff very much for the work on Nacomin Island. And yes, a great start for our watershed team in Hatzic as well.
Thank you, Director Castle. Director Adamo.
Thanks very much through the chair to everyone. I just wanted to thank our MLA, Jackie Taggart, who took a lot of time to spend with me on Wednesday doing a tour of the Fraser Valley Regional District's Area B, as well as an extensive tour of the Sunshine Valley with its extensive growth that's taking place, and to discover some things that she perhaps didn't know. So it was something really special to spend some time with her out there. So thanks very much. I also want to thank our team at our flood mitigation program, the Lower Cascade Flood Mitigation Program. We have been able to utilize the monies that we were given to hire our company. We went out to RFP a few months ago and had a successful RFP selection. And our first meeting with our new supporter of that will be Victor, I'm saying in 2 weeks, April. So coming right up. So we'll have more information about that for the flood mitigation program that we're going to take place throughout the whole part of Area B, including the District of Hope and the surrounding First Nations areas. So thanks for them.
Thank you, Director Adamo. Surprised you didn't invite MLA Taggart to put her hockey skates on and come out to the Hope and District Arena there and see our heat recovery program. You probably didn't, because she'd skate circles around you. Director Smith.
Well, actually, very good that only he had skates on, Director Dom. Director Lum, or Chair Lum, and myself would not be in that category. Yeah, I want to thank Jackie Taggart also for coming, hoping that we were able to sell tunnels, which we're working on trying to get open this year, and also did a tour around town, different things. Merdina, the precast, the buildings. It's nice to see that they're working on the latter half of next year for orders. So it's nice to see a business that keeps employment going in our community. So we appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Smith. Other director reports. Don't see any. Check online. All good. Okay, just very quickly, today marked the announcement of the BC flood strategy. This has been something that I know this board has been waiting for quite some time, eager to see. This board will recall that you've endorsed my participation in the Lower Fraser Flood Coalition, and that group includes a number of different NGOs, professional, educational, and private and public sector, as well as First Nation participants. In general, when I look at the report, the strategy, there's a lot of things reflected in there that we've asked for, but the one key challenge that I guess I would say would be it didn't come with the appropriate funding to kind of fund the work that it envisions. So, without it, and the minister used the word piecemeal today about the planning of flood mitigation and preparation across the province. And my comments would be that if the funding continues to be piecemeal and a kind of a lottery-based grant system, then we're not going to get to the place where we need to be in terms of funding the work that's envisioned in the strategy. So, an additional $39 million or $40 million into the CEPF is gonna, that will be the excuse the pun, the drop in the bucket, with the cost of just the November 2021 event, upwards of $7.5 billion. We got to do something different, folks. So it's I'm going to be a bit careful about biting hand feeds, but it's the strategy is there. So there's some bones there that I think are definitely workable, but it still leaves some people behind, in particular, Director McElhonick, folks that are still waiting years after the event to get back into their homes up in the Chilliwack River Valley, or to have infrastructure repaired so their homes are safe. And so those folks deserve certainty, and I know Director McElhonick, you're not going to let your foot off the gas on this one. You're going to ensure that you keep advocating strongly for them. Director McElhonick.
I just want to thank Chair Lum for bringing that up in the meeting today. And, you know, I know when the residents see 39 million and flood, and they haven't seen a cent, it's really a tough, bitter pill for them to swallow. So I just really appreciate that we are keeping the foot on the gas and keep on advocating, and talk to our MLA today, talk to our CAO, and talk to you as well, and ask you to please bring that to the table, and just keeping it at the forefront. These are people's lives, and I just really appreciate the support, and to be able to go back and tell them that we are doing our absolute best. So thank you.
Thank you, Director McElhonick. Any other reports from board directors? I don't see any. Ms. Kinnaman, next item.
So now we move to public question period for items relevant to the agenda. We'll just turn it over to Jamie Van Ness.
Thank you. Ms. Van Ness.
Thank you. We no longer have any members of the public joining us online, but we do have one member of the public joining us in the audience. So this would be your opportunity to ask a question relevant to the agenda if you have any questions.
Please.
Don't
just have
actually
to
have
formulate it in the form of a question, so I'll leave it.
I will
Right.
formulate
Yeah.
it in the form of a question. I watched with a great deal of interest today about the announcement around floods also. For those of you who aren't aware, I'm the MLA for Fraser Nicola, and we have been the epicenter of climate change and disaster. And when I look at a program that's announced, what I'm looking for is help for my people. And when we have reports into government, and we have indicated what the needs are, and a program comes out and we know very well that it is not what we need to hit the ground to help our people, it sets expectations that we just can't deliver. And I thank you for your words and for your continued advocacy, because we need to remember that those numbers are people. And we've got a lot of people out there who are depending on all of us to continue to advocate and to help them get back home. So thank you for the work you do. It's a pleasure to be here. I wish that you could give some lessons on efficiency in a meeting in the House. But it truly is a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the work you do.
And I'm assuming you're talking to Director Pranger, so thank you, MLA Taggart. Next item, Ms. Kinnaman.
Looking for a resolution to close the meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
By Director Facio, second by Director Ross. All in favor. Opposed, if any item carries.
Okay, just give us a couple of minutes to set up the room.